Welcome to I Said What I Said, a sports podcast giving you opinions not heard anywhere else. I'm your host, Brad Wakai, coming to you from Brooklyn, New York. And that is my co-host, Tyson Gentry, coming to you from Missoula, Montana. And Tyson, we put to bed the NBA last episode. And if you're basketball fans, it's one of the worst times, right? We get our free agency drama after the NBA draft. We're like, "Woo, all right, this is great." And then we have to put it to bed, and it's gridiron time.
I mean, guys are hitting the field here like next week. I think is when training camp is like underway for the majority of teams. So it's here, man. It's arrived. We're like a month and a half away from college ball.
It's crazy. And so we did our little early analysis for college football before 4th of July. So go back and check that out if you're curious, whether you're listening on wherever you get podcasts or on YouTube. It's all out there. So if you're like, hey, if these guys talk college football, yes, we have. But today we're going to focus on the NFL. We're going to do a little bit of what we did with college football, give a little bit of early analysis, kind of what we're thinking before we get into our really deep dives in each conference like we did last season, or each division like we did last season. And we'll do the same with college football. So we're going to do that. We're going to touch on a couple different things. Teams in a team each of us have picked to make a jump next season, in a team that we think is going to regress. And then we're going to touch on different factors around the NFL, maybe teams that are going to kind of stumble a little bit, or things that are catching our eye this offseason after the Super Bowl and during the draft. So let's just jump right into it, Tyson. Teams to make a jump, because we all know what happens, right? It's the first thing that happens every single year. This team sucks. All of a sudden they win the division next year. So there's a lot of different contenders, I think, that have, maybe kind of shown their head after the draft, shown their head in free agency. But who are you like targeting that you think is going to make a jump coming into 2023?
Well, we went back and forth on it a little bit, and it was harder to kind of pinpoint one team that I really think is going to make a jump. And I told you one, and I'm going to throw a second one in there at the same time. But I think the Steelers and the Browns are both going to be more live in the AFC North than people are probably willing to admit right now. We're all very excited about Todd Monken in Baltimore and what that offense is going to look like with Lamar Jackson. And then everyone in the world is on Joe Burrow and the Bengals to just be playing in the AFC title game. Basically, it's that or disappointment for this team. Look, dude, Kenny Pickett wasn't very good last year, but he got better as the season went along. The offensive line stunk. The defense had some stinkers down the stretch as well, a lot of injuries, and now guys are kind of right now back healthy. We'll see how it goes as the season gets along, but Mike Tomlin gets to get his hands all over this group of young, impressionable skill players, and kind of like run down the list is Freiermuth is a young guy, Najee's a young guy, Pickett, George Pickens is a young guy. We talk about Deontay Johnson like he's 35 years old. The dude's like 28, and he's going to smash this year too. By the way, I think 140 targets again and no touchdowns is just out of the realm of possibility. He's going to be really good. And then the Browns, either Deshaun is cooked, or that was kind of just you took 2 years off from the NFL. And if he's back to being top 5, eventually the Cleveland Browns are going to have to be as good as we thought they were going to be 3 years ago, 2 years ago, last season. Or if they're not, maybe they're just the Browns. But like this roster is talented as shit.
Yeah, I like those looks because we all think
that room's not very good.
Ravens, wow, they're going to kind of get better, right? Like last year was an anomaly. Bengals, we just crown them. But I like this look because the Steelers, last year everybody thought, and us included, this is the year that they're going to finish under 500. We took their win total under, and what did they do with the worst roster we've seen in the Mike Tomlin era? They still won 9 games, almost made the playoffs. Like it's uncanny.
Is he coach?
What he continues to do? It feels like it, and it's a different way, right? Because Spo's tactical, right? Like he's always drawing things up, and Tomlin's like the rah guy. Like he probably couldn't drop a play, and that's being facetious, but he probably like couldn't draw anything up. But he's like, I'm gonna make sure that when somebody draws up for you're gonna run through a wall for it. Like that's the way he operates.
He's the best, dude. And I mean, like you said, it was the worst roster he's dealt with. And are you sold on Baltimore making that jump? I mean, the wideout room is held together by glue and tape right now.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing that concerns me. I think the defense will be better this season. The offense is still to be seen. Obviously you mentioned Monken. Like, who knows? Maybe first year there's some bumps and some warts. Not quite sure, but we'll see. I really like the look here. I think the Browns, especially for me, is a team that I had circled as well because I do think Deshaun Watson will make that leap. Now, Stefanski, I know people are a lot higher on him than me personally. I don't think that he's as good as we've elevated him in his status currently, what he's done with the past few years with the Cleveland Browns. But the defense is sick. They bring over Jim Schwartz, who I think is going to elevate that defense from what it was last season. And even if you have average run of the road Deshaun Watson, that's going to be better than what they've dealt with when Baker Mayfield wasn't very good and what we got from Deshaun Watson last year. So I think combining the two factors there, I think you're going to get a much better Browns team who's going to be able to compete. And let's not forget, Tyson, the Browns play the Bengals extremely well every single season. It's just something about that matchup. So that's at least a win on their schedule. You know, if we go through the wins and losses, that's a win, that's a loss type of thing. And the Steelers itself, like, what more do you have to say? Like, Mike Tomlin's just a wizard, and you get another year of Kenny Pickett. I think more people are sold to them than we are, but it's another year in the NFL, another year to kind of learn the speed and things like that. Mine, and Tyson, this may shock you a bit, and I may be just way too bullish on my guy here, but I love the Panthers to make a leap. And they did finish with 7 wins last year. Like, people like kind of forget, they're like, oh, the team was horrible. They had to trade up to get the number 1 overall pick. Like, they weren't the worst team in the NFL. Like, they were 7-10. Matt Rule did get fired. Steve Wilkes did a good job in the interim. And ultimately, the owner, David Tepper, felt like going a different way, brought in Frank Reich. And I think that's the difference here. Frank Reich, quarterback whisperer, has his guy here now with Bryce Young, who we think is the number 1 QB in the class. They go up and get him. There's already a ready-made defense there with these young guys that they've been drafting for the last couple of years. I legitimately think that this team can win the division next year with a rookie QB. Am I crazy to think that?
No. The Buccaneers sucked last year, and they won the division. The Panthers almost won the division. They almost stole it at the end after they fired Matt Rule, and they won the 3 or 4 or something like that before they skidded at the end. Dude, the reports are Bryce Young's a mental savant, right? That was the report out of early OTAs that we got. So this dude is going to be processing at a high level. Don't sleep on Hayden Hurst this year. I don't think many people are talking about that. Tight end at 30, former first-round draft capital. All the things are kind of pointing up for him. But the division stinks. So kind of throw a dart. It's them. It'll be them, the Falcons. If Kyle Trask or Baker Mayfield's okay, then the Buccaneers could like win this division again, but they're going to stink probably.
Saints.
And like, are we in love with New Orleans? No, but like we're kind of just penciling them in to win the division because it almost feels like you have to.
Yeah, it's strange. It's strange. So I like the Panthers. Like I think they're going to win 8 or 9 games. And I was like, well, it's a 2-win increase, but compared to what they were it was a lot of dysfunction. It didn't feel like there was a game plan or a blueprint. I think them winning 8-9 games with a rookie QB would be huge for the trajectory of the franchise. Let's move on to teams who are going to regress. And I think we have some interesting answers here, Tyson. Let's start with you. Who do you think is going to regress?
Well, I don't know if mine's interesting. I feel like this is cheating, but the Minnesota Vikings are going to be worse. Like their record in 1-score games last year, we all know was insane. You're kind of figuring on another jump from the Lions. You think the Bears are not going to be the worst team in the league again. And then Green Bay wasn't a good team last year. So if they're not a good team this year, it doesn't necessarily propel the Vikings any further within the division. The way they crashed and burned was ridiculous. And then they lose Dalvin Cook. Right now you're running in the season with Jordan Addison as your number 2 wideout, which might end up very well for you, but also could crash and burn. Like this dude is little. And so if he can't stay on the field, then all of a sudden it's Hawkinson, Justin Jefferson, and we're watching a repeat of what it was at the end of last season. Defense got worse. Nobody really seems like they want to play here, which is another kind of big part for me. Dude, I think they're going to give up like week 10.
Man, I like Kevin O'Connell, so I'm interested to see what he does in the second year because the first year, like you mentioned, was just insane. Like they won every single close game. They finished with a 13-4 record. A lot of those are like, man, they kind of get lucky. And we'll dive into this a little bit more when we look at this division, like exactly specifics and everything in depth surrounding the Vikings. But I agree with you. They're going to take a step back for sure. 13-4 will not happen again. I don't think they win double-digit wins at all.
They're 8.5 right now on FanDuel.
Yeah, that seems right to me. I would go under, to be completely honest as a look. Now, my team is the Giants. And people, listen, I know people, Eagles fan, hater, like what? They had the easiest or second easiest schedule in the league last season. Brian Daboll won Coach of the Year, which I did not think was deserved. It should have gone to Nick Sirianni. It just insane. I mean, come on, like what are we doing here?
No,
They lost three.
No,
they
you're
lost
really
three
just being a
times.
hater.
They lost 3 times to the Eagles last year. Guy who loses 3 times wins Coach of the Year over the other guy. Sorry, that doesn't seem to make sense. But I digress. I'm still not sold on Daniel Jones. They're playing a much harder schedule this year. Saquon Barkley, with the entire contract thing, I think that could not only ruffle the locker room, but is he even going to play? Like, he's prepared to sit the first week. I think it's dumb from his perspective, but that's the reality we're in. This, to me, seems like they could be sitting on a powder keg. Now, maybe I'm underestimating Brian Daboll. I do think he's a really good coach. I do
just
think
the second best in the division.
Just the second best in the division, for sure. But there is a big possibility that this thing could go south quickly.
I think Saquon's going to play, dude.
I don't know if he's going to play week 1. I think they'll figure it out. But we got a long time. I don't know. I mean, he's not going to play in the franchise tag. Like, they got to figure this thing out.
Well, they're also screwed because it's Isaiah Hodgins and just like 9 slot receivers, basically, is what they have on the roster right now.
Yeah.
And then Daniel Bellinger is supposed to be your seam stretcher at tight end. Like, it's not a very good collection of weapons. And that's part of the reason I think Daniel Jones had the lowest average depth of target in the league last year. And if it wasn't him, he was super close because the ball wasn't even traveling like 10 yards in the air. Most of these pass plays, it was manufactured stuff. So I think a lot of like, he deserved the $40 million because he didn't turn the ball over. It was like, well, they didn't run plays where he even had the opportunity to turn the ball over. And then when they opened it up a little bit, all of a sudden he started throwing picks or he's scrambling around and fumbling, whatever it is. But they're 7.5 right now on FanDuel, Brad.
I may look at the under. I'm not going to lie to you.
So
I'm not lying here.
Giants or Commanders. We'll get into the NFC East in its own episode, obviously. But right now,
I'm looking at Commanders. I think if it.
You think Giants are worse in the division then?
I do. I'm looking at it this way. If Sam Howell is good, which we have no idea, but I'm going to pair him with Eric Bieniemy because we also have no clue if this guy's any good. But if he's good, that defense is so good, Tyson. I mean, that offense last year was a joke. They went 8-1. And the offense was anemic. Like, they're going to be healthy. You're going to have a healthy Jahan Dotson. Terry McLaurin's still there. A running game with like legit offensive attack. And if Sam Howell, like, he looked good against the Cowboys in the last game, the one time he got a shot. Like, if he can play, and if you get an updated offense compared to his dad was the coach for the Vikings for a while and the offensive coordinator. I forget the offensive coordinator last year. Not Novak. Anyway, if Bieniemy updates this thing and like they actually can run some offense, like that's a scary sleeper. I think in this division, finishing 8-1 last year, they finished last. Tyson, they're going to have the easiest schedule out of anybody in this division as well. Let's not forget that.
Scott Turner,
yes, Norv Turner was what I was thinking of.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. The Commanders might win the NFC East because that's how this division works,
right?
I don't think anybody's talking about them right now, and we've all given up on Antonio Gibson. And for some reason, like Jahan Dotson isn't mentioned with any of these other guys when you talk about Olave and Garrett Wilson and Drake London and guys from like that class. You forget Jahan Dotson was the one scoring touchdowns every week, and we're Carson Wentz defenders to the end of the earth for the most part. And he was horrible. He was garbage last season. But I don't know. That's a bold claim. They won a playoff game last year, the Giants.
I know. They also played the Vikings. So
that's true.
Both the teams in that game are on our regression list, which is hilarious.
Who is Daniel Jones the most overrated quarterback right now in the NFL to you?
Kyler Murray.
You think Kyler?
Yeah, by a mile. Kyler sucks.
Do you think?
No, don't worry, Tyson. He's attacking his rehab.
Right, that's true. That's good because I was worried that he wasn't going to take it seriously. But now that they told me that he is, then I'm all in that he is. Dude, I think people have come around on Kyler's thinking. I think people are kind of more into Kyler not being as good as we thought.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Oh gosh. All right, let's do some quick hitters here, Tyson. I'm just because, like we said, and we've been saying, we're going to dive into these teams in depth and like really give you a look. I'm curious what you think of the Chiefs because they're coming off the Super Bowl. It feels like we're kind of talking about. I'm like, can anybody beat Mahomes? Can anybody beat the Chiefs? 14-3 last year when predicted them to not be good. The wide receiving core sucked. Like that's what we're all saying. The defense is bad. And they just go out and win a Super Bowl. Now, Andy Reid's still there. Mahomes is still there. So you figure as long as they're there with Travis Kelce, you're going to have a shot. But another first place schedule, international travel, the AFC seems to be tougher. Like, what do you think about the Chiefs this year?
I mean, the AFC seemed to be tougher last season, and they just donkeyed everybody on their way to winning the Super Bowl again. Like, they dropped 3 in the regular season, and they're all kind of close games or super confusing in the case. Was it the Colts game?
It was a Jaguars game.
It was something like Chris Jones said a bad word or something like that. And
Yeah.
the
It was the Colts when they lost, yes.
Yeah, he gave him like an extra 15. As long as Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid are together, it's hard not to think this team's going to make the playoffs. And then once they're in the playoffs, is there any quarterback in the NFL that you want more than 15? No. Is there even a close second? No. They're going to be fine. I think that one underrated part is Andy Reid's never really been a rookie guy. And so now we got Sky Moore in year 2. He didn't look good in year 1, but we have him in year 2. We have Kadarius Toney now with the full offseason in this system. If that dude's healthy, how does Andy Reid factor touches in for him? The offense could realistically be like a different version of what it was last season when they were figuring out life after Tyreek Hill, and that went pretty good. But if Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore are kind of stretching you side to side, that is going to open up even more stuff for Travis Kelce up the middle. They don't have to run the ball. Everyone's so concerned. Like, Clyde sucks, and is Pacheco really good enough as a 7th rounder? Dude had 100 yards in the Super Bowl with a broken hand. It's easy to run when everybody's worried about the pass.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm at too with the Chiefs. Like, if Mahomes stays healthy, I think losing Bieniemy, I'm interested to see, because we all think like it's all Andy Reid, but Matt Nagy stepping back into the OC role, and he was good for him. Let's not forget. Like, it's not like he's a bum. Like, I think we kind of look at him like, oh, he was horrible with the Bears. Like, oh, he stinks. But he's a good offensive coordinator. I think he designs good plays. So are you really losing much by Bieniemy leaving? Not sure. Maybe it's an upgrade based on what we've been kind of seeing between Mahomes and Bieniemy. But as long as Mahomes, the best quarterback in the league, is there, I think you can't really count him out. Somebody who's getting noisy with them this offseason, the Cincinnati Bengals. So they went to the Super Bowl, lost. We love Joe Burrow. We love these weapons. Lou Anarumo on the defense. I mean, no matter who's there, I'm confident in them. It feels like it's going to be Bengals Chiefs for a long time, competing to go to the Super Bowl from the AFC. Is that how you feel as well?
I think you got to – Josh Allen and the Bills, I think, are always lurking. They seem to peak at week 12 and then go backwards into the playoffs. And if that changes, then like Buffalo could be the team to beat. Like if they have a healthy Von Miller, Gabe Davis stays healthy and actually can put up like wide out 2 numbers. And let's not forget, I know Damian Harris didn't sign like a contract that really makes you think he's going to be even on the field or on the roster. But if this dude is providing a different look at the goal line, they lost a game to the Minnesota Vikings because they couldn't run a quarterback sneak. They now have a short yardage back. Like this is a team that we talk about year over year, and every year they're not physical enough. And maybe that is just going to stay the way it is. But the Bengals are physical enough, and they turn everything into a knockout, dragged out. What is it? Knockdown, drag out fight.
Something like that. Yeah.
I mean, the Bengals just want to meet you in the alley. And one thing that I'm a little bit concerned about, not maybe necessarily this year, but like Joe Mixon looks done to me. And I think that Chase Brown is a good secondary or maybe a third running back in the NFL. I don't think he's ready to step in and take over. Joe Mixon is one of the last true bell cows in the entire league.
I was surprised they didn't try to Cook feels like he would fit this team, right? Like Dalvin Cook to me feels like he would fit kind of what they're offering. Now, he's not a bell cow anymore by any means. Like he's had those injury concerns. He's had the injury history. But I feel like in terms of the way they want to spread things out, like they still use Mixon a lot for targets in the passing game. Like Dalvin Cook to me feels like somebody they should have gone after, but they kind of sat back and were content. I think they know they have to pay T. Higgins. They're going to have to.
We got Wi-Fi issues. What? I'm sorry, you cut out a little bit there at the end.
I was just saying. I think probably they think that they're going to have to they're going to have to give the contract to T Higgins and Jamar Chase. They didn't want to put anybody on the books like Dalvin Cook's contract.
Well, it's also kind of one of these things that people forget year over year. Like Zeke doesn't have a job right now. Leonard Fournette doesn't have a job right now. Kareem Hunt doesn't have a job right now. You can kind of run through these running backs are going to join teams. Like Ezekiel Elliott didn't. His last play wasn't getting run over playing center for the Dallas Cowboys. One of these guys is going to be available at the end of August. They don't want to go to OTAs. They don't want to go to training camp. Like Leonard Fournette wants to show up week 1 and play. And I think that there's an opportunity for them to do that in Cincinnati. And honestly, if I'm them, you kind of have to be smarter with the money because, like, I think that you'd be a fool to let T. Higgins out the building.
I completely agree.
This dude, to me, is if he's not the best number 2 in the league, he's top 2 or 3. Like, it's him, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, kind of whatever order there. Maybe another guy I'm forgetting. But this team they're juiced, dude. And it just felt like they started so slow last year and they didn't really find the next gear until it was too late. And then by the time they found it, they couldn't engage in that offensive up and down because sometimes the offense was bad.
Well, the offensive line has to be better too. Like they spent so much money in the offseason.
3 years in a row. This is the best Bengals offensive line of all time on paper, right?
Oof, and they suck. So they're going to have to figure that out. I do think it's going to be better this season. Like it feels like they just try to throw big names at the offensive line and be like, perfect, we got our guys, instead of like building an actual offensive line that's going to gel and be cohesive, can both run and pass block. Like I do think they're going to be better. I want to touch on the Bills because you did talk on them too, because it really does feel like Bengals, Chiefs, Bills. And so
if there's an NFL redraft tomorrow, Pat Mahomes goes 1,
Burrow 2, Allen 3.
Yeah, they've got a top 3, top 4 guy. You might. We got Eagles stuff on. We're not even throwing Hurts in front of Josh Allen right now, and it's getting to the point where I don't like. Are people not really watching like this? They don't remember. This guy's insane.
And that's the thing, right? So I actually think the Bills are going to do much better this year because they're under the radar, and which is weird, right? Because there's some teams when it gets noisy around that locker room or around them, they just don't perform as well. Some teams can rise to it, right? It's the Patriots every single year because Belichick can kind of block it out. Andy Reid can kind of block it out with the Chiefs. Whoever else you want to go down the list, like the Bulls when Michael was there, the Lakers when Kobe was there in their heyday, like they would be able to block it out and they'd win and dominate. I felt like the Bills got a little over their skis last year, right? Like all the expectations were crazy. I'm on record as hating on the Bills, but that DeMar Hamlin thing was like at the end of the season, and that couldn't have been very easy to deal with going into the playoffs. And we also got to think too, they got snowed out of 2 games. Like they had to travel like 2 extra weeks, like one to Detroit randomly. They had to do another thing they were snowed in, and they're very close to the community. I heard like somebody from Buffalo talking about how like it like weighed on a bunch of people because like their neighbors like in Buffalo. Like, it's not like, I play in LA, I go live in like a gated community. Like, no, they're like in the community, like living in Buffalo in the football season. Like they know like their neighbors. So they know people had to go like actual struggles and stuff like this during those snowstorms, which I think people kind of forget about. So just a long story or like a long-winded thing to say, I think Buffalo could be sneaky because I know everybody's counting them out.
I sure hope so because I love Sean McDermott, and I think that the seat just is going to continue to get hotter if he keeps losing to the same 2 guys, which sucks. He's good.
Leslie Frazier is out, so McDermott seems to be calling the plays. I want to know more details on that, but we'll dive into that more when we get to the actual preview. But listen, man, we got to talk Jets because it's Jets, Rodgers. That's what they're banking on, Tyson. Like they are banking on Aaron Rodgers to come in and basically be Joe Namath.
Better.
That's what they're hoping for.
The Jets defense was really good last year, but we're talking about it like it was a mythical, far and away the best unit in the league. And if they just had anybody competent under center, like this team is walking to the playoffs. And there's a lot of question marks, man. I mean, what's Breece Hall going to look like coming back from injury? Are we sure that Garrett Wilson is the next man up in the long line of like legendary wide receiver year 2 jumps? Because everybody's penciling him in for 115, 120 catches. He's going to have 10 touchdowns and 1,600 yards. And maybe not. I'm throwing it out there. Like maybe the defense was really good because like Sauce Gardner wasn't all the way on tape until week 6, and Quentin Williams was looking to get paid, and there's a whole bunch of other factors in there. And the defense is going to be good again because it has a bunch of good players. But we're kind of just sweeping all the other issues under the rug because they got 12, and Aaron Rodgers hasn't won a damn thing since 2010.
I think that's the thing, right? Like, is the quarterback play going to be better? Yes.
Yeah, by a mile.
It's going to be better. Like, you have Aaron Rodgers. He's going to be better than Zach Wilson. He's going to be better than Mike White. Did it feel like they just put duct tape over the hole in the boat and
Flex Seal.
Completely forgot about other things? Flex Seal, right. And they were like, look, perfect. Now we can go and float, or now we can go and be a cruise ship. It's like, no, man, like that's not the way it works, because every single team that comes in is like, this is the one thing we're missing. Boom, we addressed this one concern. It's like, okay, then you forget about these other concerns you may have had. Like maybe this certain part of the defense gets a little older. Maybe
Robert Saleh is not as good as we think.
That's the other thing too. So you're going to have to rely on Robert Saleh to be really good. You're going to have to rely on Aaron Rodgers to kind of turn back the clock a bit. Who knows, man? He could get grumpy. It's the New York media. Maybe he feels more pressure than he's ever felt in Green Bay. Who knows? I think on paper, this is a really good football team. To me, Tyson, I just have to see it work. Like, I have to see Hard Knocks. And so New York Jets have been announced that they're going to be the Hard Knocks team, which is what we were clamoring for, by the way. Like, we were begging the NFL to put this on. So we got it. I'm going to be watching. I'm probably going to watch every episode. I think I'm going to like Aaron Rodgers for once in my life. It's going to be a weird feeling.
Good editing is what it's going to take. Dude, they're closer to the Dolphins than they are to the Bills, to me. Miami gets no love because we all just remember Tua, unfortunately, on the ground throwing his hands up because he's concussed, and that's the image that everyone has in their head. They almost won a playoff game with Skylar Thompson. They lost by 3 points. Like this team was closer to round 2 of the playoffs with a backup quarterback than the Jets were to sniffing the playoffs with like starting quarterbacks. I guess Mike White's now the backup, but Miami's getting some unfair shade right now. They're kind of just the castaway because New England's not going to be very good. And we think that that's going to create some sort of vacuum for them, the Jets, to go in there and take advantage. Dude, it's all a waiting game. I think if you're holding the Jets ticket right now, you're either a Aaron Rodgers truther, and this is the most talented dude you've ever seen put on a pair of cleats, or you're a Jets fan.
Also, they're going to have an insanely tough schedule to start the season. If they stumble, I would recommend them buying in after that if you think they can turn it around. It's a long season. Let's not forget that. Okay, let's get to the NFC, Tyson, before we close out our early thoughts. Let's talk about our Eagles, because there's a lot of people who said, well, they played such a soft schedule last year. Like, is Jalen Hurts any good? Like, we don't know. Like, they played so many cupcakes. Like, I don't know. They finally played a real team in the Chiefs, and look what that defense did. One, I would say Jonathan Gannon's a hack. Like, we've called that 2 years ago. Like, we both were anti-Jonathan Gannon.
He's a head coach now. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's brutal. Good luck, Arizona. Yeah, you got Kyler Murray and Jonathan Gannon. Good luck with that. So I think they upgraded. I think the size actually a really good defensive coordinator. I think he's going to play into the strengths of what's actually on this defense, which is man-to-man instead of sitting in zone. I think this offense is only going to take the next step because we know Jalen Hurts is a worker and a grinder. Like, he's not going to sit back and be like, woo, I made it. Like, no, that's not what he does. Like, he works his ass off. So they have a tough schedule this year. I am nervous that they're not going to win the division. I'm nervous that the Cowboys will, or that potentially that the Commanders will. But this is still a damn good football team with a really good head coach and a really good quarterback.
Yeah, it's weird because outside of the Super Bowl loss and then the loss to the Commanders, I think it was Monday Night Football, the Dallas Goedert face mask didn't get called, turned into a fumble, and Washington wins the game. Those are the only 2 games that Jalen Hurts lost last season. Like, the Saints loss was Gardner Minshew. The Cowboys loss on Christmas was Gardner Minshew. The team is really good. On paper, this is maybe a better team. Losing Javon Hargrave to the 49ers, a defensive tackle, is a bigger deal than people think. Like, you can't really just anticipate plugging in rookie Jalen Carter and he's going to go be one of the premier pass rushing defensive tackles like Javon Hargrave is. But you can hopefully count on a jump from Jordan Davis and maybe more snaps from Jordan Davis, and that could help things a little bit. One thing, dude, they didn't nobody got hurt like all year. They were the most healthy team I think I've ever seen in my life. Like and if guys did get hurt, it was like the third string right tackle, right? Or it was somebody who plays special teams. It was never a big name, which could be maybe they're just miles and miles ahead of everybody as far as soft tissue stuff goes, or they were lucky. And I think it's quite a bit more likely they were lucky with injuries.
And we know the Eagles have gotten banged up. Like the last 3 years of the Doug Peterson era. Like, I don't know what the hell was going on over there, but they were just beat up, man.
Just a bunch of vanilla ice cream.
It had to be, man. It was crazy. Like, everybody was hurt. And, let's move into this team because talk about injury unluckiness. Like, the Niners have gotten banged up. Like, it happened against the Eagles in the playoffs. It happens every single year. Like, they have something going on there. Like, they need some like sage or something to burn in that locker room so nobody gets hurt. Like,
they're burning something in that locker room for sure, dude. It's San Francisco.
Yeah, you're right. So the biggest thing about San Francisco right now, the quarterback, is it going to be Lance? Is it going to be Purdy with his bum elbow? They brought in Sam Darnold. Like, who's going to start week 1?
Dude, I want to say this right now. Question. Everybody needs to chill the fuck out. Brock Purdy had 8 weeks or whatever it was of really good football. Brock Purdy was the last pick in the NFL draft for a reason. Like, it wasn't – you can say that, oh, this team had a 4th-round grade on him or whatever. Nobody was talking about taking this guy in the first 3 rounds. He came out and lit the world on fire, and that's why it was so cool. So to expect him now coming off of a torn UCL to get right back to, that guy that looked like a world beater when he first started, we don't even know if that is Brock Purdy. Because maybe that was just a bunch of schemes to get guys open, which he just happens to play for maybe the best head coach at doing that. And then to anticipate health for a team that just is never healthy. Like Christian McCaffrey played every game last season. Right. This dude doesn't do that. Elijah Mitchell is probably the most injury-prone running back in the NFL, which is unfortunate because he's really good. Dude, this is weird, but the 49ers feel more like a paper tiger to me than maybe any other team in the NFC, just because I don't get it. Like, this is the same team that it's been for 4 years in a row. They're going to win playoff games because they show up well prepared and they punch you in the face. But sometimes they're going to run into a team, and it's happened every season so far that Shanahan's been there, that's ready to fight. And they're just better. Like, they just have better players. They're just a better team. Like, the 49ers are – they're Ohio State or they're LSU or whoever you want to pick in college football, where every year we got some questions, but it's so many 5 stars. Like, this thing can't go sideways. And then eventually they run into a team with a bunch of other 5 stars who's a little bit better coach, a little bit healthier, maybe a little bit luckier. And I think that's just going to be the story of the Shanahan tenure, which sucks because I love him and I love watching the 49ers play. But like, we shit on the Bills for losing big playoff games all the time. But every time the 49ers do it, it's like, well, it's because of XYZ.
I agree, dude. That's a great way to say, like, what's been going on in San Francisco. Like, that's what I think too, because it happens every year, every single year. And they're blue chip central, man. Kittle, Fred Warner, Debo,
run up and down the list, every level of offense and defense.
Like Trent Williams left tackle, like it's nuts who's there, and it's nuts who's always there, and yet somebody's always banged up. Kyle Shanahan he loses a big game, gets a little tight, gets cute, and they lose, and that's what it is. I hear so many people, Niners will win the championship this year. Why? Brock Purdy. So let's say it's Brock Purdy. Is he a top 5 QB in the NFC?
I don't know.
You know what I mean? Like it's bad now, but like I think Kirk Cousins is better.
Well, then
Jalen Hurts is definitely better.
If Kirk Cousins is in the top 5, then no. Like he's not, because Dak is going to be in there.
Dak's better than Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like just kind of go down the list, and how many like bad
Jared Goff is better than Brock Purdy?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Like how many bad quarterbacks in like modern era have won a Super Bowl or won a championship? Like it just doesn't happen anymore. Like you have to have a top level guy. So that's why I push back on these San Francisco guys. Like, okay, let's say it's Sam Darnold. Really? Let's say it's Trey Lance. What's he done? Like you still are going to have to be okay. So maybe the defense can carry him. When's the last time a defense won the championship? Legion of Boom. I mean, Russell Wilson. Let's not forget, Russell Wilson was good.
It's been a minute, man. Yeah, so, it's like 2000.
I'm with you, man. They seem paper tiger to me. I'm looking at the Seahawks. Are they live, Nat? in that
The
division.
Niners are going to win the division for sure. They're going to win the division. They're probably going to walk into the playoffs. They're going to beat somebody 42-17 to start, and then they're going to run into Dallas or Philly or maybe even Detroit or somebody that's just maybe just a little bit better football team, because the 49ers are a better collection of talent than probably everybody, and they are every season, but you have to play football.
Dallas is scaring me this year.
They're going to be good.
Dallas
You
is
picked
scaring
them
me
to
this
go to
year.
the Super Bowl last year, I think.
No, I picked them to go to the NFC Championship game. I didn't have enough balls. Thank God to pick them to win the Super Bowl. That'd be
You're
insane.
a nut, dude.
I
You're a
know.
nut.
All right, let's get into some final thoughts here as we kind of move into. Yeah, we don't want to give too much away because we're going to dive into every single team in depth. But any final thoughts that you want to give? I know you're a big fantasy guy. Like anybody on your radar, any team that you're looking at, anybody you think is going to suck, like whatever you got as we close our early thoughts episode.
Oh, I mean, I think that the Rams are going to stink. I think they're going to be worse than even what is their over under? Let me pull that up right now. But
I think it's 6.5.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I think that there's going to be a lot of Stetson Bennett playing football this season, and I don't think Stetson Bennett's going to be very good in the NFL. Like
6.5 juiced under.
I think the Rams and the Bucks are the two playoff teams, or I guess the Rams sucked last season, but two teams right now that are going to be fighting for the bottom and don't really look like they have a way out.
Keep an eye out on the Broncos this year. I'm telling you, I like to stack some awards, baby. Coach of the Year, Peyton. MVP, Russell Wilson.
You're a psychopath. What?
Super Bowl winner. What do we look at this right now? Super Bowl winner, Denver Broncos. Give it to me, baby. Let me take a peek. What is this thing right now?
Let me take a leak, man. I'm pissing all over this thing.
Seriously, I'm going to be pissing my money away. Plus 4,500 Broncos. Give me a ticket, baby. Let's go.
Dude, I can't. That's disgusting. I'd rather you hold a Panthers ticket to win the Super Bowl.
Oh, God. I mean, the NFC, that's the way to attack it if you're going to look for a long shot, right?
Yeah, you have to. And
you have to.
Also, I think that there's a decent chance that the Cardinals number at 4.5 is like,
dude,
locked. Like
that's
I feel
they're not winning 3 games.
I don't know. I think it's gonna be a lot of Clayton Tune. Like I don't know if Kyler's gonna want to play. I don't know if they're gonna want Kyler to play. If they have Caleb Williams.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Trade Kyler. Trade him to one of these bum teams. I don't know. Got a lot of quarterbacks. Maybe Kyler goes plays for the A's because they're gonna be in Vegas.
Don't they have the Texans pick too?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, so this is a look to the future season for the Arizona Cardinals for sure. Jonathan Gannon just got fed to the fed. He's a lamb, basically.
Yeah,
like he just got Steve Wilkes because he's going to win 2 games, and they're going to say, "Dude, you got to get out of here."
They're going to say, "Hey, Lincoln, you want to go? Coach?" All right, I know. So we're going to get to win totals. We're going to get to everything like that. But in the meantime, actually, we got Wimbledon, Tyson. I have something in the men's bracket and in the men's draw that I'm going to be playing. That's going to come out. So we're recording on Thursday. That's going to be coming out Saturday. So get in our chalkboard, which Tyson will tell you about right now because I'm going to release some picks.
It is in the Chalkboard app. It's on App Store, Google Play, wherever you download your apps. The group name is the Roundtable Bets. It's Brad, myself, and a handful of other people. We're growing a little bit, and we're just trying to basically just talk shop with each other. It's not like these are our picks, you should tail. It's more of if you have a fun parlay that you're going to throw down on a random Tuesday, I might have $5 that I want to throw at something. I want to see what everybody else is up to. And like Brad said, it's whatever sport you can think of. We'll be back with another golf major parlay in there here in, was it a week?
Week's time, yeah.
Yep, 1 week from today. Yeah, and we've just anything you can think of. So just join our chalkboard, ISWIS, and then the Roundtable Bets. And just come in there and shoot the shit.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's actually coming out Friday. So we're recording on Wednesday. The ladies go Thursday. The men or the gentlemen go Friday. It's going to be awesome, too, if you're not watching it. It's going to be insane, these semifinal matches. So I got a few plays in there. But in the meantime, like, subscribe, and share the show. Connect with us on social media. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok is all the same at ISWIS_pod. We got a ton more content coming out. So make sure that you're connected with us there and that you don't miss anything popping up in your podcast feed, whether it's Spotify, whether it's Apple, whatever the case may be. If you rate, review, and subscribe, send us a 5-star, ask us a question. We'll answer it live on the show. And if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to smash that like button. It really helps us out, helps us become more discoverable, getting that algorithm, whatever the tech guys are doing over there, that just helps us out. So we really appreciate you guys watching as always. The nerds, yeah. We're diving in, man. It's football time, Tyson. So we're going to be back with a ton of content next week. We're going to start our preview soon, so keep an eye out for that. We will speak to you all then, guys. Until then, peace.